Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Nabil Kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa ba'd. In this blessed month of Ramadan, it pleases the heart to see Muslims coming to the masjid, to see young and old attending the Salat al-Taraweeh prayers, waking up early for suhoor, coming to the masjid in anticipation of breaking the fast for iftar, and to see people hastening towards good deeds. One scholar explained that a description of the month of Ramadan an accurate description would be the season of worship, or the season of change. We know there's a holiday season, we know there's a fall season, we know there's a spring season, we know there's different seasons. For the true believer, the month of Ramadan is a season of change and a season of worship. Knowing that the shaitans and the evil spirits are locked up, and looking at the environment, looking at the fact the person is fasting, a person naturally wants to do more good deeds. The heart is softer, the person feels more attached to the masjid, a person remains hungry throughout the day, and these are all spiritual aids, or these are all supporting factors which make worship easy for us, and which make good deeds easy for us. At the same time, it's important that we understand that just as there is a positive effort going on in one direction, we also need to preserve that positive effort by not allowing any negatives to take place. What do we mean by this? That our actions are going in two directions. One is our good deeds, one is our evil deeds. One is how much good we do and how much we head towards the good direction or the right direction. And the other is, are we committing sins? Are we doing the wrong things? Are we committing haram actions which counter affect the good which we are doing, or which neutralize the good which we are doing? And the Prophet ﷺ has explained this in a hadith. اتَّقُوا الْمَحَارِمْ تَكُونَ أَعْبَدَ النَّاسِ. So friends, meaning our mindset also should not only be on doing good, but it's also important that we give just as much emphasis on preserving the good which we are doing. What does that mean? The scholars give an example that one of us has a glass. For demonstration, we don't have a glass around, but you can picture a glass is here. We have a styrofoam cup in front of us. And no, it's not a dark cup, for those who are concerned about that issue. So we have a styrofoam cup in front of us, and we have two styrofoam cups. One has a hole, one does not have a hole. And we take mango lassi, we take ruabza, we take whatever, Kern's nectar, whatever you want, Alfonso mangoes, and we put it all inside. Respected friends, we understand you can take all the good drinks you want, put them inside, and both of the cups. But we understand because that hole is present in one of the cups, any good which is being put inside is being neutralized, it's being wiped out. Because there's a hole inside, that cup cannot hold anything. In the same way, let us understand that the good which you are doing, we have to protect it. And the way to protect our good deeds is to ensure that we avoid the unlawful things as well. As we said, it's a two-sided or two-pronged effort here. To do as many good deeds as possible, to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do optional worship. At the same time, we have to give just as much importance to avoiding unlawful things. Because sins, the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and other types of unlawful deeds, committing major sins, being involved in haram activities, consuming haram, this has that negative effect on the good which we are doing. And just like the cup, it will wipe out some of the good deeds which we are doing. In the same way, the commentators explain that this month of Ramadan, we too have to look at maximizing this month of Ramadan and obtaining maximum benefit from the month of Ramadan. That all these good deeds which we are doing, are we still preserving them, and are they still left in our account of good deeds? And one of the ways for us to maximize our good deeds is to ensure that our fast is a fast in the true sense of the word. And some of the pious scholars such as Imam Ghazali and others, they have written on this subject, that there are different levels of fasting. And not everyone gets the desired benefit out of fasting. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam indicates in the hadith, "Kam min sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa dhama'u." That there are many people who get nothing out of fasting except thirst. So the point is, many Muslims are fasting, many people all over the world are fasting. But not everyone gets the desired benefit. Not everyone gets the desired spiritual benefit and closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that reward and the advantages and benefits associated with fasting. Not everyone gets this benefit. That some people, they fast, they wake up early for suhoor, they remain hungry throughout the day, they remain thirsty throughout the day. But unfortunately, they are not getting the desired objectives and benefits out of fasting. And other than this hadith, many scholars have written about this importance of preserving our fasts and looking after our fasts and following all the etiquettes, following all the guidelines of fasting. And the most important aspects of fasting, of preserving our fasts, is two things. One is, a person is fasting, a person is staying hungry, staying thirsty, but we have to realize there's something more to fasting than just staying hungry and staying thirsty. Scholars explain, a true fast means that a person is also fasting, or in other words, abstaining from all types of sins, all types of sins of the body, all types of internal sins, all types of external sins, and that person, during their fast, they avoid all types of unlawful and haram things. Friends, if you were to summarize the true fast, the fast which gives us the maximum benefit and brings us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are the two essential components. That along with fasting with your mouth, along with fasting with your body, by not drinking and eating, the true fast is a person fasts and abstains from all sins. And that a person also fasts and abstains from all unlawful things during their fast. So which brings us to our point of discussion today. This is a very general topic. And the true fast would mean, while we're fasting, we're not involved in any type of backbiting. While we're fasting, we're not involved in any type of gossiping, lying, cheating, arguments. And while we're fasting, we're not involved in looking at anything unlawful. Looking at members of the opposite sex, looking at other unlawful things. And while we're fasting, we avoid listening to anything which is unlawful. Listening to gossip, listening to music, listening to other unlawful things. And in the same way, all the limbs of the body, the entire body as a whole, internally and externally, whether it means hating people with our heart, whether it means having jealousy from our heart, all these internal sins and external sins. وَذَرُوا ظَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَهُ. Leave the apparent sins and leave the internal sins, the hidden sins. And in the same way, Imam Ghazali and other scholars, including Sheikh Zakaria, in Fadail Ramadan, they have written in detail regarding the etiquettes of fasting, the best way of fasting, and all the guidelines for fasting. That is why it's recommended we read, whether it's Fadail Ramadan, or whether it's Ihya Ulumuddin, or whether these other books, it's recommended that we read about this month of fasting. And we learn about the etiquettes of fasting. And we learn about the spiritual dimension of fasting. If a person fasts properly, that fast has the ability to change a person's life. And that fast has the ability to bring that person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that fast has the ability to give that person the strength to avoid all types of sins. And the fast has the ability to change the person's life outside of the month of Ramadan. Provided all the etiquettes, provided all the guidelines, and provided the person fasts in the true sense of the word. So today we will discuss what an important element of preserving a person's fast. Sheikh Zakaria has written about this as well, and Imam Ghazali has also written about this as well. That we should ensure while we're fasting that at the end of the day, when it's time to break our fast, that the food we eat also meets the halal requirements, and it is permissible for us to consume. In the same way, as scholars explain, in the same way we should ensure that our source of income is also earned through lawful sources. Because both these aspects play a role in what goes into our stomach. If a person earns unlawful income, their income is through haram and unlawful sources, and even though that person buys 100% halal meat, and the person buys everything 100% halal, but because that source of income is unlawful, that food which is going through the person's body is also haram, it's also unlawful. And here a number of commentators say this is one possible explanation and interpretation of the hadith. Kam min sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa dhamau. Respected friends, a person is putting in all this work. A person is staying hungry for over 17 hours. A person is putting in all this effort. The person is trying. The person's staying hungry throughout the day, staying away from liquids throughout the day. But unfortunately, because of a lack of concern and a lack of caution in what they purchase, a lack of concern and caution in their source of income, at the end of the day, when it's time for iftar, all the benefits of that fasting have been wiped out, unfortunately. And that person, at the end, their balance is at zero. The good deeds, the benefit, the spiritual advantages of fasting, none of those advantages, none of those benefits are attained. None of those great rewards are attained. And the person ends up at zero. The person ends up at square one. They've remained hungry for 17 hours, for 16 hours, but at the end, they're back at square one. Friends, they're back at square one. And at this juncture, it's important that we discuss this aspect. Just as it relates to Ramadan, it also relates outside of Ramadan. That what is the spiritual connection? What is the spiritual benefits of eating halal? What are the spiritual harms of eating haram? Because for many of us, we do not understand the deeper implications. We do not understand the deeper significance of eating halal. If you ask the average person, do this, take a survey of the average Muslim youngster, or take a survey of the average person. Because many of the aspects of Islam we practice, unfortunately, have become a ritual or a routine, where we just do certain things, but we don't understand the reason why we do it. You ask a person, why do you go to the masjid? Say, yeah, because Muslims go to the masjid. Now you ask the person, what are the benefits of going to masjid? Why do Muslims go to the masjid in Islam? What role does the masjid play in Islam? The average person might not be able to give a satisfactory answer. The same way, if you ask us of many of the other aspects of Islam, sometimes we're doing it as a routine, sometimes we're doing it because our parents are telling us to do it, sometimes we're doing it because everyone else is doing it. But truly, to what extent do we understand the benefits of what we're doing and the harms of what we're avoiding? So that is why the scholars explain the spiritual dimension. And that is why numerous hadith emphasize the importance of eating halal. That there are spiritual consequences involved. That each morsel of food you put in your stomach, it has either a positive consequence or it has a negative consequence. And this isn't just a health-related issue. If you ask most of us sitting here, right, mashallah, I'm sure we have a lot of doctors here as well. If you ask most of us sitting here, analyze the health benefits or the harms of eating a burger every day for iftar. I'm sure many of us sitting here can give us a long lecture about good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and heart disease, and fatty foods, and eating beef, and eating red meat. And you could go on a long discussion about how carbohydrates are broken down, and eating fried foods right after fasting is not the best thing to do. And we could go on a long discussion about the health benefits. So to a great extent, we are educated, at least most of us are educated on the health impact of what we eat. If a person eats junk food all the time, we understand the effects it has on a person's body. If a person eats fruits all the time, we understand the benefits of eating certain foods. We understand the harms of eating other foods. If a person puts too much ghee in their food every day, definitely has an impact on them. If a person switches to olive oil, yes, it will have an impact. So when it comes to this outward benefit of eating food, or this health aspect of eating food, to a great extent we do understand. Respected friends, this is really the unique aspect of Islam. That in Islam, the concept of food, the wholesomeness of food, the effects of food, the impacts of food, begin where modern science leaves off. Because modern science and modern society will only talk about food up to the health aspect. They'll discuss drinking too much soda, what effect it will have on you. But in Islam, we take it to the next level. Because the spiritual dimension, the spiritual aspect of what we eat, this is unique to religions and specifically to Islam. Looking at the impact of the food that goes into our stomach. How does it impact my behavior? How does it impact my spiritual level? How does it impact my ability to do good deeds? How does it impact my closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How does it impact my ability to stay away from haram? Friends, each morsel of food that goes in our system has tremendous spiritual consequences. And the pious among us, and many of us, we can relate to this fact. One person who I had met, he said, Shaykh, I personally see whenever I eat out, eating out at American restaurants or eating out at your fast food places, he says, whenever I eat out at a restaurant, the next day I can't wake up for tahajjud. I see the impact. When I eat out at a restaurant, whether it's a halal or haram restaurant, he didn't specify. Whenever I eat out, I see the impact on myself, that I can't wake up for tahajjud. Friends, this has been a discussion for 1400 years, from the time of the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhum, from the time of the pious people like Imam Abu Hanifa, like Imam Shafi, and the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhum. This is not a cultural thing. This is not just something unique that one culture of Muslims cares more about halal and another culture does not. The Sahaba were Arabs. Sahaba radhiyallahu anhu were Arabs. Look at the story of Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu when he was told that haram had gone into his system? Did he say the sin is on the person who fed me? Did he say that no, the person, he fed me haram, the sin is on him? Abu Bakr anhu, why was he so serious about this? Why was he so restless when he heard the food haram had gone into his system? But friend, the point is, the pious people before us, they understood this impact of what goes into our body. They understood how serious it is. They understood how serious the consequences can be. That if haram goes into my system, if even one morsel of haram goes into my system, what impact it will have on me? What effect it will have on me? For them it was a reality. For them it was something that was extremely serious. And that is why they took serious steps and they took serious measures to prevent haram from going to the system. And within Islam, this is, again, it's not a cultural thing. This is a universal Islamic practice. Open up the books of hadith, you'll find this study of Islamic quality. When we open up Riyadh al-Salihin, when we open up the books of hadith, we hear about the terms taqwa. Some of us have heard of the term taqwa. We hear the term zuhud. We hear of the term tawakkul. We hear of sakhawa. We hear of these Islamic characteristics and Islamic values. In the same way, respected friends, there is an Islamic concept of something called wara. You'll find this in Riyadh al-Salihin. You'll find this in the books of hadith. And this is even a higher level of consuming halal. What is the definition of wara'? As commentators explain, wara' means that a person, not only does a person avoid all haram things, that's a given. As a Muslim, right, at a very basic level, we have an obligation to avoid the haram things. We're not talking about this basic level. Wara' indicates that a person avoids all doubtful things, things which might even be permissible within itself, but a person avoids doubtful things in order to protect themselves from haram things. It is a higher level of taqwa. It is a higher level of avoiding haram. In other words, not only do you avoid haram, you avoid any possible situations that could lead you to haram. And there's more detail regarding wara'. At a different time you can ask the scholars to give you explanation of wara'. لا يبلغ العبد أن يكون من المتقين حتى يذر ما لا بأس به حذرا مما به بأس. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام رواه الترمذي في سننه. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has explained this concept of wara'. He says, a slave cannot reach the level of the muttaqis. A slave cannot reach the level of the pious, of the people who avoid all unlawful things, until that person leaves those things which are harmless. Within itself, these things are harmless. Out of the fear of those things which are harmful. Avoiding harmless things out of the fear of those things which are harmful. In other words, avoiding doubtful things out of the fear that perhaps there is a chance they could be haram, they could be unlawful. So, respected friends, if you trace this back, why would a person go through such extreme measures? I've met pious people. Right? There was a Muslim immigrant from an Arab country who came and stayed here for a number of years. During his whole stay here, the only thing he ate was dates. For 1 or 2 years during his stay in America, he did not eat any outside food. The only thing he consumed was only dates. Friends, and we have seen the practice of a number of pious scholars who visit this country. They do not eat any meat at all. Just no meat policy. A number of the pious scholars who have visited here, you have met some of them, their policy is just no meat at all. Why even go into the issue? You just won't eat meat. And unfortunately, this is a mindset which we as American Muslims are far, far away from. common question I get, a Muslim will call me up and say, Shaykh, I'm going down to Mississippi for a conference, for a seminar for a few weeks. And Shaykh, can you advise me what halal food options we have there? I say, respected friend, you're going to a place where there are not many Muslims. It's difficult to verify the sources of halal meat there. And I would advise you, the best thing for you to stick to the vegetarian options. But what can I eat? Without meat, how am I going to survive? What mindset is this, respected friends? You will not die from eating vegetarian food for 1 or 2 days. And perhaps it might be better for you as well. Will help on it. Respected friends, and we hear about many pious people. Right? There's a pious person we know, also involved in the effort of Tabligh, well known in New York. His Hajj is characterized by 2 things. The whole Hajj is walking, number 1. Number 2, the whole Hajj is vegetarian. Not going to the issue of food in Saudi Arabia, the 15 countries where it's imported from, what is the status of the halal meat in those 15 countries, and all these problems. Just stick to vegetarian. Make life simple, stick to vegetarian. Respected friends, the pious people before us. Again, if you look at it just from a basic point of view, many people will say, that's too strict for us. That's too hardcore for us. Many of us are used to having meat 3 times a day. 3 meals a day we have meat. Breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Friends, understand, it's not just self-imposed hardship on a person. Understand the logic behind this. That when we discuss the halal food issue, it's not making things harder for people. That's not the objective. But the point is understanding the impact of the food we eat. If that comes into a person's mind, the person realizes how serious things are. The person realizes the importance of eating halal and the effects of eating halal, then no price is too high. There is no price a person is not willing to pay. And I commonly give this example, that unfortunately, the challenge we're facing here, in the Muslim community as a whole in the United States, is the same complaint about halal meat costing too much, and hand slaughter costing too much. And some people argue, whether rightfully so or wrongfully so, they say, Shaykh, you tell us at the slaughterhouse, you take the animal, you slaughter the animal. But Shaykh, at the halal meat stores and restaurants, we also get slaughtered a second time. We also get slaughtered a second time. Respected friends, it goes back to the same argument. And I tell people, one of the most important aspects of eating halal goes back to the connection with eating halal and a person's du'as. As numerous hadith indicate, when a person fasts in the month of Ramadan, there's one dua which is accepted. There's one dua which is accepted. You could look in Fadail Ramadan. This is mentioned in the books of hadith, that as a favor to the person who is fasting, there's one dua made of the person fasting which is accepted. And many other hadith indicate this dua at the time of breaking the fast is accepted. Respected friends, let us ponder for a second. Look at every single one of our lives, and look at every single one of our situations. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Every person in their own way is going through some challenges. And that's the test of this life, is that a person necessarily will have to go through some challenges, through some hardship, through some stress, through some mental challenges, mental anguish. This is part of our life in this world. Whether it's economic reasons, whether it's social reasons, whether it's societal reasons, whether it's family issues, whether it's health issues. Every single person sitting here, right, no person can say, I have a perfect life without any issues at all. Every single person has some desires, has some ambitions, has some problems, has some challenges we're going through. And some of us are going through even very difficult stages in our lives. Whether it's at work, whether it's at school, every single person is looking for some improvement, or looking to resolve some of the problems they're facing. Respected friends, the solution is smack right in front of us. That we as Muslims, we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-powerful being, and one split second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can remove all your problems in your life. In one split second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can remove all your difficulties. In one split second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you economic boost and take care of all your financial problems. And interesting story, one youngster called me a few days back. He said, Sheikh, I'm in a dilemma. I'm working for this ride company, this taxi type service, and I lied in the application to get that job. Because my car has been salvaged, and I knew they were going to reject me, so I lied about this. Can I take this job or not? Should I take this job or not? I told this youngster, I said, look, we as Muslims, we believe in honesty, we believe in trustworthiness, and if you're going to take this job, knowing that you've taken the job lying and you're not deserving of it, right, this is wrong. As a Muslim, you cannot do this. Honesty is the best policy. I mentioned this ayat of the Quran, if that person who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide a way out for them. I said, don't take the job. He said, I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed for so long. What do I do? I said, inshallah, Allah ta'ala will provide a way for you. One day later, he says, Sheikh, I was waiting for this one business transaction of selling one of my cars, and it just went through today. Alhamdulillah, now I have the money which I need. Alhamdulillah, my problems are taken care of. So respected friends, the point is, every single one of us, to some extent, is going through some challenges. And that one accepted dua, all it takes is that one accepted dua. Whether it's our children getting married, whether it's getting accepted to school, whether it's getting a certain job you want, whether it's buying that certain house we want, whatever need we have, respected friends, the solution, the answer for it, and the means to getting that need accepted is there, is making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only being who can accept our needs and can accept our request in a split second. And it's not difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His treasures are limited, His treasures are unlimited, His power is unlimited. He can accept our duas and solve our problems in a matter of seconds. Respected friends, do we realize the value of that one accepted dua? Because the prerequisite for that dua being accepted is that we eat halal food. The prerequisite for that dua being answered is that we ensure that only halal goes in our system. And the moment unlawful food and haram food goes in our system, that those duas will not be answered. This is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثم ذكر رجلا أطال السفر أشد أغبر يرفع يديه يقول يا ربي يا ربي وملبسه حرام ومركبه حرام وغذي بالحرام فأنى يستجاب له. Friends, if our earnings through our unlawful sources, if the food we eat is through unlawful sources, then we should not expect this magic power of dua, we should not expect this magic change, and we should not expect our duas to be answered. It's the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as a person applies for a job and they don't meet the prerequisites, and all day and all night they make dua, but they don't have that basic degree which is required for that job, then you're only fooling yourself if you think you're going to get that job and you think dua is going to magically change things. If you haven't fulfilled the prerequisite, then you're not going to get the job. It's the way, the system of the world, that's how it works. In the same way, respected friends, for that dua to be answered, there are prerequisites. And if we are not careful about the prerequisites, if we do not give attention to the prerequisites, then it's simple, the dua will not be answered. We can make dua, but the dua will not be answered, respected friends. And on the other side, and on the other hand, a simple formula for ensuring that our duas are accepted, a simple formula for solving all our problems, is also right there in front of us. In a narration reported by Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas and recorded by Imam Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, Under the ayat, Ya ayyuhan nas kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba. Look in this Tafsir ibn Kathir, you'll find this incident recorded by Imam Hafid ibn Kathir. That one day, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, the maternal uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came and asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, ud'u Allah an yaj'alni mustajab ad-da'wah. Ya Rasulullah, ud'u Allah an yaj'alni mustajab ad-da'wah. O Prophet of Allah, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on my behalf that He makes me mustajab ad-da'wah. Now what exactly is mustajab ad-da'wah? Those who are familiar with this term will tell you, mustajab ad-da'wah is a person who has extreme close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To such an extent, whatever they make dua for, that dua is answered. Imagine a person that's so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all they have to do is raise their hands. Today, for iftar time, I want the temperature to cool down and reach 65 degrees. Person makes dua, iftar time is 65 degrees. I make dua, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want strawberries and cream for iftar. Next thing you know, there's strawberries and cream waiting for that person for iftar. That person is so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all they have to do is raise their hands. So, respected friends, this is not a fairy tale, it's not made up. There were people like this in Islamic history. In fact, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas himself is like that. Read his biography in the books of Hadith and in the books of Tabaqat. You do not want to mess with Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas. There is a number of stories related to this effect. One woman made a false claim against him, that Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas stole my property and this property is really mine. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas said, look, I'm not going to worry about her, I'm going to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, oh Allah, if this woman is lying, then give this woman her death in her own property and make her die in her own property. Respected friend, that same woman years later becomes blind, and in the same property she usurped from Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, she falls in the well and she dies. And numerous other incidents are mentioned. So this concept of mustajab ad-da'wah is not far-fetched. And someone may ask, well, that was the Sahaba or the 21st century, is it really possible? Or is it just something, abstract concept? Respected friends, when Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make dua for him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him a special nuskha. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him a special wazifa, if you may. A very simple formula. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, Ya Sa'ad, atib mat'amak takun mustajab ad-da'wah. Ya Sa'ad, atib mat'amak takun mustajab ad-da'wah. O Sa'ad, ensure that your food is halal. Ensure that your food is wholesome. Ensure that your food is tayyib. And simple. You'll become mustajab ad-da'wah. So, just as the consequences of eating haram are serious, the benefits of eating halal are just as good. They're just as positive. So, respected friends, the solution is there. So the point, again going back to this discussion, why eat halal? Why avoid haram? Why even avoid doubtful things? Friends, the reason is this, that it has such an impact on us. It has such an impact on our body. It has such an impact on our du'as. And I'll pose this rhetorical question. That right now, if one of us had this guarantee that one of our du'as is guaranteed to be accepted, if we knew that one of our du'as is definitely going to be accepted. Now this is not the magic genie and the genie lamp. If we knew that one of our du'as is going to be accepted, can we put a price tag on that one dua being accepted? How it can change our life, how it can improve our financial situation, how it can improve our problems in our life. That one dua being accepted, what is it worth? Respected friends, if you judge it or weigh it up against the importance of eating halal, or even just eating vegetarian, or even avoiding doubtful foods, or being careful of what you eat, walking in the store, looking at the ingredients, asking the scholars, doing research before going to a restaurant. On one side, put all these challenges, paying extra for eating halal. Put all these challenges, put all these extra costs, and put the value of one dua being accepted. What is the price tag in that one dua being accepted? Something to think about. That price tag in that one dua being accepted. Is it not worth it? So, respected friends, the change, the issue is overall as the Muslim community. Because we lack education, the fact of the matter is, right, there are surveys done in this country. 30 to 50% of Muslims in America, right, mashallah, Irvington is exception, and the brothers here are also exception. But the fact of the matter is, 30 to 40% of Muslims in America are not concerned about eating halal. They eat halal when they can. When they go out and travel, they eat whatever they get. The fact of the matter is, a good percentage of Muslims in this country are not concerned about what they eat. They're not concerned about what they consume. Right? The restaurant says halal, that's enough. He says it's halal, that's enough. So the point is, understanding how serious the issue is, understanding the impact of what we eat, understanding the impact on our dua, understanding the impact on our behavior, how that one morsel of haram impacts how we behave, impacts our good deeds, can potentially wipe out all our good deeds, can wipe out our fasting. So that is why education starts at home, and change starts from one community, starts from one masjid. We have seen in many masjids overseas that as a whole, when we as a community, when we as a masjid, we demand a higher standard. We demand a higher level of halal. When we demand verification, accountability, transparency, then when we as masjids, when we as communities stand up, the change will come. The change first has to come from us. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. The change has to come from us. As a community, as a masjid, when we are serious about these issues, when we are educated about what we're eating, when we demand transparency, when we are serious about what we eat, the change will come immediately. And I can guarantee you this, put this in writing. I can guarantee you this. This might be a little bit controversial, but I'll say this anyways. I can guarantee you this, I'll put this in writing. If the 7 million Muslims in America, only for their nikah da'wats and their iftar da'wats, if they were serious about verifying their sources and ensuring what is served in their nikah da'wats and in their iftar da'wats is verified, coming from the right sources, hand slaughtered, proper halal, the situation in halal situation in America will change overnight. That's all you have to do. It's as simply of putting your money where your mouth is, put your dollars at work. All this money which you're already spending for our nikahs, for the iftars. I'm talking not only in one masjid, I'm not saying that in any masjid. I'm talking overall the whole Muslim community in America. If this one change took place, and it's your right, respected friends. I'm not asking you something which is beyond your capacity. In your right, as people, as consumers, you are paying for a nikah, you're paying for a da'wat, you're paying for a banquet, you're paying for iftar. Just exercising your right as a consumer in what you purchase. And I'm not asking for about 365 days of the year. All I'm asking about is your nikah da'wats, your graduation ceremonies if you want to add them on, and your iftar. In these two aspects, if we were more strict, if we asked for verification and transparency and to confirm the sources of what we're getting, the halal situation in America will change overnight. But because there's apathy and lack of concern when it comes to these two areas, that's why the halal industry continues to do whatever they do. That's why the status quo continues, and that's why there's no significant change taking place. Because we as consumers are not educated. We're not making educated decisions. So with that, respected friends, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the true value of eating halal. Ameen. And the true value of protecting our good deeds. And the true value of keeping our fast, and the true value of having our du'as accepted. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah bil alameen.